Ryan Snyder did an excellent job of teasing this last weekend when we were recording a breaking news commitment video. And he wasn't lying, because here we are again, except for Ryan was not available and is busy with other things. But that's why we have such a great team, is because we have not one, but two recruiting experts on the staff. Sean Fitz is here to tell me about the latest Nittany Lion committing in the class of 2027. So Fitz, welcome to the show. What's going on? What have you and Ryan been cooking behind the scenes here for commitment season as we are now? I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Full steam ahead. Spring football. We're on our way to 30 commitments, right? It's going to be great. Top 10 class, top 5 class. Everyone's going to be super happy, and there's going to be no problems the entire way. But anyway, now that I've derailed this before we've started, who committed?
Really looking forward to the conversation. Is Penn State moving too fast in recruiting? No, we're not there. Not close to there. But the Nittany Lions on board with another commitment in the class of 2027. If you have been following our coverage at Blue White Illustrated and at bluewhiteillustrated.com, you know that there's a kind of a corner crunch right now. Semajay Robinson hopped in over the weekend. Now Penn State has picked up a commitment from Pittsburgh Central Catholic cornerback Zachary Gleason. This is a guy that we've earmarked for a long time, maybe as the potential first commitment in the class, regardless of position. He came back to campus in January for a junior day, came away feeling pretty good about the Nittany Lions. And it's one of those guys that's, if you're an in-state kid that is watching a guy like Terry Smith recruit nationally, you're kind of getting the hint here. And I think he got the hint here that Penn State was about to not close up shop at corner, but get pretty crowded pretty fast. So Zachary Gleason, the latest to commit to Penn State. I think it's a really good pickup. T. Frank, you and I were talking a little bit before. An aggressive cornerback. We got him at 6 foot 170. Has really worked in getting his times down, and you can see that on tape. I think he took a solid leap from his sophomore year to his junior year. You talk to people around Central Catholic, they're pretty excited about the kid. Productive guy on the outside that kind of fits that mold of bigger corner. That could possibly be a safety at some point. I think he's going to stick at corner personally, but I think there's a lot to work with here with Zachary Gleason, and Terry Smith will take as many corners as he possibly can, and as many Western Pennsylvania guys as he can get into Penn State's class of 2027.
So, as we said, this is a push at cornerback. They now have two. Who knows how many they're going to get? And you're going to know eventually if you subscribe to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel as we chronicle Penn State in spring football as they add commits in the class of 2027. Now that the dam is broke, who knows what's going to happen. So make sure you subscribe and like this video. Helps us out with the algorithm, all those things, because I don't know if you've been told this by other YouTube channels, and we have to do this. I apologize to do this quick break here, but we have to do this because YouTube changes the algorithm all the time, and if you subscribe to us, it doesn't always show up on your feed anymore. So if you like the video, you engage with our content, the number one thing to do is to watch the video and enjoy it and get the information. But then if you couldn't like the video, it just ensures that our stuff will show up in your feed regularly going forward. For those who are listening to this, maybe on the podcast version, just want to put this up here for you. Zachary Gleason, and I'm just going to get ahead of this. He is not a 3-star corner. He is going to be a 4-star eventually. That's my opinion. Number 744 overall in the On3 national, the Rivals national recruiting database. 77th overall corner, yada, yada, yada. 20th overall in Pennsylvania. And then Rivals individually, he is an 86 overall and the 22nd player in Pennsylvania. Not part of the latest On3. I did it twice. I did it twice in a row,
it's
man.
Very easy to do. I get it.
Oh. Rivals on 300. Rivals 300, also not ranked by ESPN. So a lot of that information about he's a 3-star. Oh, this is a good star. Watchers are going to say this is a bad pickup and it's a 3-star program because of Matt Campbell, because apparently doomerism is just the coolest, smartest thing to do in the world. This is a very good football player, Fitz, and this is somebody that I know that you've just outlined Penn State has been watching for a while. What have you been hearing and learning about Zachary Gleason in this process leading up?
Yeah, this is a guy that Penn State prioritized after his junior year. You look at sometimes when you've got a big program like Pittsburgh Central Catholic, you've got guys that bounce onto the scene early and then just kind of linger there for a while. When you've got late risers, a guy like Xavier Thomas that they took in the class of 2026, class of 2025 at Penn State, these guys are on the rise coming out of their junior year, which is a good thing for any prospect, really. I mean, we do this so often that we get locked into the really early rankings and stuff like that. And you mentioned the Rivals industry rankings. With 2 rankings, if you look at a player profile, the prospect profile, and there's 2 rankings and there's an industry ranking, it's going to be flawed. So this guy is an 87 with us. He's an 87 with 24/7. The industry ranking has him as an 84. So the math is not mathing quite yet. So we're going to see what happens. And of course, a lot of evaluation left to do, with him on board, probably catches us a little bit, a few more eyeballs than it would have when he didn't have a decision. This is a guy that was looking at a mostly regional offer list. You take a look at his potential official visits. Virginia Tech was in there. Pitt was in there. West Virginia was in there. So kind of a typical recruitment in this area, if you will. Been out to a bunch of places, but has been to Penn State the most. And you could probably see this one coming. To me, it was a matter of, what's Penn State's situation at corner? And yes, they got Semajay Robinson, a guy from Florida, which, if you watched this channel before, you understand that if there's a guy from Florida, you're going to keep recruiting that position as if it's kind of open, because even though Semajay Robinson very committed to Penn State right now, things can change in the next 9 months or so until National Signing Day. I guess 8 months until National Signing Day, since it's almost April. But you're looking at a situation where Penn State's going to go full speed ahead, because you start that assembly line at corner. You want to get your fastest athletes. You want to get your, guys that, even if he eventually is a safety or even an outside linebacker for some of these guys that are coming in at 6'3" that can run. You want to start and get the most athletic guys possible. And those guys are usually cornerbacks. Zachary Gleason, no exception there. Guys that's probably in the high 4.4s, right around 4.5. So he's not the 4.2, or he's not the Davian Collins 4.3, call it. But there's a lot to his game that you can like, because it's well-rounded. And these kids that come out of Pittsburgh Central Catholic are usually that way. They're football players that understand the fundamentals of the game and will continue to grow. And if they've got that athletic base to do so, they're going to probably flourish in a college way program. So I'm excited to see what Zachary Gleason can do. This is a guy that Penn State has prioritized, again, coming out of his junior year, coming into January. And they're really good at recruiting corners. They're coming off of a class, I guess, 2 cycles ago, where you've got Jameer Joseph and Darius Dixon. Xavier Thomas was also in that class. Josh Johnson said, they've done a really good job under Terry Smith, reshaping this position completely under that tutelage, and continues to go in that direction.
We'll get to the highlight film in just a second and some of the things I watched. I love when they get a commitment from Pittsburgh Central Catholic, because there's film and I get to watch full games and I get to see the good and the bad. And spoiler alert, there is much more good than bad. And that's why I think he's a 4-star corner. But the first thing that we have to talk about is, you mentioned it's almost April. It's only a couple of days left until tax day. And if you don't see that my eyebrows are fully up because, I don't have a hairline anymore to compare where they are, it is all, you are in trouble. And if you have not done your taxes yet, you should consider freedomfinancialtax.com. Josh Fallenstein, sponsor here on the Committed video series. Fitz, you got a chance to meet him at one of our subscriber events in January that we did for Blue White Illustrated subscribers. So, this is a dude who is not just, a tax expert and somebody who's excellent at what he does and a consummate professional. He's also a Penn State football fan, and he's a fan of the show. So, you'll have a lot of things to talk about when you guys get in person.
He was talking about, hey, I sponsored the breaking videos. And of course, the way that Penn State's offseason and all that stuff, just points at all of it right now, went. We didn't have a ton of those breaking videos because we didn't have a ton of commitments. But now I think we're back on track, and we're really happy to have him. And I hope you're going to hear his name a lot in the next coming weeks and months as Penn State continues to approach the spring game, get into the spring evaluation period, then get into the summer official visit season. So I think we're on the right track here in terms of getting his money's worth in terms of what he is looking for from us. But hope to hear his name quite a bit.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you are an individual and you want to work with somebody who does their to do your taxes for you, because it is a nightmare every single year. It's the thing that you wake up okay, it's in the back of my mind, and I know that this could be the Saturday, this could be the Sunday that I do it, and then you just put it off. Well, just don't do that anymore. They specialize, by the way, in year-round tax planning for both individuals and businesses. So if you're a gig worker, you are a small business owner, you're an individual with W-2s, doesn't matter. They can help you pay the least amount of taxes possible, which is, I think, the goal for everyone. And they also offer a range of services from streamlined taxes to strategic year-round help to understand the tax code, not just on tax day. So you're not just like me and Fitz, who's okay, it's almost tax day. Let's put on the pads and run into a brick wall 4 times, 5 times. They also, by the way, I should say, have a new business startup package where everything you need to get a business running efficiently. So you have an idea, you want to sell something, you want to build something, you don't want to be a tax expert and you don't want to have to do all those extra things. They can help you with a bunch of this stuff. So I've worked with Josh myself previously. He's a great guy, and they can help you with IRS correspondence, all these kind of things. Like, just a ton of stuff. And you should probably call him at 866-401-1090. That's 866-401-1090 or freedomfinancialtax.com. Let's talk about Zachary Gleason's. You can see the highlights here. Fitz and I were talking about guys that he reminds us of, or players that are a good comp for Gleason. And we didn't really have a good all-around component to compare him to. But I am going to go on an audible here, Fitz, because I was thinking about this. I was watching this yesterday. His intelligence, his anticipation, and his physicality, just those things, remind me a little bit of Darius Dixon in that he is a very smart corner, and I think he comes in with a higher floor than you might expect. Now, from the physical side, you mentioned like straight line speed. I think that's improved. The thing that I like the most is his change of direction skills and his burst. So his acceleration from a standing starter, from a transition. I think he pairs really well with Semajay Robinson, who those are not necessarily his skills. And you have a guy like Gleason now who is, I think, athletic in the short area. He's quick, he's explosive, and long speed can come, like with more physical presence. You get in the weight room, you get stronger, those things can improve. He, to me, I think has a high floor as a corner, and he's not small. Watching him play against the LaSalle DB that went to Notre Dame, Joey O'Brien, physically, like he fought with Joey O'Brien, who's 6'4", like 220, and he won more of those matchups than O'Brien, in just like run blocking situations, run defense situations, and getting to where they were attacking into the flat. They were attacking with screens and things like that, and he was around the ball the entire time. So from those angles, I think Gleason is a really good corner with the versatility to play zone or man, and the physical ability that he doesn't necessarily have overt strengths. I think he's got a lot of things he's really good at. You wouldn't say, like, here's a defining trait that makes him a top 10 corner, but he's not missing anything either. And a lot of times, like when you're looking at a corner and like, where's the weakness? I don't see a weakness in his profile. And that's what I think gets me most excited, is that the growth potential and where he can go, I think is in that upper echelon of corners we've seen recently from Penn State.
Yeah. And if you look, so the reason I hesitate on Darius Dixon is because he came in right away, did some wonderful things right off the bat. I don't know that Gleason will be that guy, but he's got another year. He's got a senior year of high school to play. So it's so tough for me to look at Darius Dixon and Zach Gleason and say, okay, well, these match up, because that then sets the expectation that this guy's going to play right away. And you don't know what the room is going to look like when he gets here. There's a lot of question marks that you can ask to kind of shoot holes in that, but played for a big time program. Okay. Darius Dixon played for Mater Dei, played against top competition, or the top competition that will face. Central Catholic will go out and play pretty much anybody. Okay, check that box as well. He's got the height, he's got some length, he's got the ability to play. He's not going to be a slot corner, but I feel, especially at the high school level, you put him in the slot against somebody, that's great. You did give about 20 pounds to Joey O'Brien. He's only about 200. I think his Notre Dame roster is 203 right now. But yeah, he's got.
I shot a little high.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Well, that's what he looked like. He looked like he was 220 on film.
Some of us
that's
carry
the
20
thing.
extra pounds, and some people notice it, some don't. Joey O'Brien, he's not one of those guys. But no, Gleason's got the ability to kind of play all over the field. I turned on his film expecting to see a zone corner, expecting to see one of those Big Ten corners, because you look at the way that Penn State has recruited since Matt Campbell has gotten here, and a bunch of those guys that they took in the class of 2026 late are those 6'2" guys that are labeled as corners, but maybe are just kind of playing a cover three, just kind of sitting back and waiting and playing in the zone. And I expected to see that from Gleason, didn't see that. So I was pleasantly surprised the way that he's able to turn and run, move those hips, flip those hips, as you said. The ability to get faster, I think he's done that. You saw a tweet from Justin King where he got his time down, what was a 4.748 to a 4.48. So like there are some good things working with his work ethic, with his ability to continue to make those physical strides. And from a framework perspective, you can see the Darius Dixon stuff. Like I said, I don't like doing it because it sets that expectation that he's going to come in and play right away. But yeah, you see a lot of those things that you saw in Darius Dixon in Zach Gleason. And I think that anytime that you can compare him to a guy that's like that is a very good thing. And the other thing, Dixon, the holdup on Dixon in terms of some of his rankings, specifically with us, was the lack of high level top end speed. And I think that Dixon has improved in that regard, and I think Gleason will as well.
Yeah, and I think Gleason is faster than Dixon was at this point. Watching him on film, I don't have any concerns about his speed from a baseline perspective. Where it is right now, if he were that speed, you could win with him in various different situations. Dixon, I did wonder if he was going to be kind of that nickel safety, or if he had to play inside because he didn't necessarily. he was closer to a 6'5" or a 4'7" at the time, as opposed to a 4'8" here. I'm having a hard time because I'm very high on Gleason. He's the last guy I watched, but having watched Semajay Robinson, having watched Gleason, I think there's things I really like about both. And I hate doing comparison thing because then it sounds like one of them is bad and one of them is good, but there are just traits that I was hoping to see with Semajay Robinson that I see, just the burst, the twitch, the acceleration. Those things are critical when it comes to breaking up passes and getting your hands on the football. And he has that. Like, there's no question that he has that. So you can play in zone coverage, you can play in man, as long as you don't find a burner in the slot or something like that. So there's just a lot of positives. And I just want to stress that because we're going to he's a 3-star. What are they doing? But to me, this is what you talked about this. We've had this dialogue about, like, are these Matt Campbell corners? Are these Terry Smith corners? Like, this is a Terry Smith corner all the way through, a guy that can play in multiple coverages, that has a projection that he can do almost everything on the field, and is an aggressive physical tackler in the run game. So very complete profile from Zach Gleason for me. And that's what I got. I'll have more in detail at bluewhiteillustrated.com. Anything else you got about Zach Gleason here as we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I think the thought in my mind is this is a corner that Terry Smith takes in any of his classes. So this is not just a settle for him. Again, we're going to fall into that stars trap, and it's far too early, number one, with 2027 rankings, because there's a lot of evaluation to do. And number two, it's a little bit skewed in terms of the math in the rivals ranking. But Gleason was one guy that I highlighted. Speaking of plugs for our own stuff, I wrote the other day after Robinson committed that Penn State could be on the surge here. It's not going to be a full-blown, here's 15 commits coming, because a lot of the name brand guys that already, if you're watching this channel, are going to wait for official visits. But there are some guys out there, specifically corner, mentioned Zachary Gleason, also mentioned Keyshawn Telfair, the Ohio cornerback, very high on Penn State, a couple picks in from Penn State there. And a couple other prospects, and we kind of riffed on Peter Bork and Khalil Taylor, a lot of the stuff. So check that out, because there are some things brewing for Penn State. It seemed hopeless for some of you for a long time there, but I think we've managed to turn the corner there, and it's good to feel that breaking news video come up. You don't get the "We Are Better" tweet anymore, but if you're subscribed to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, you will get the breaking news video. So don't miss those. So subscribe to this channel, like the video, pump it up in your algorithm, pump us up in your algorithm. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I think it's a good step forward, and I think collective exhale. I wasn't on the Robinson commitment video, but you look at Penn State fans getting awful antsy there for a long time. You can only preach patience on this side for so long before you kind of just throw your hands up in the air. I think we're getting to that point, but now it's good to get the wheels turning once again. And they're going to get many guys on campus this spring. It's going to boil over into the evaluation period, and then see what happens with official visits. Because I think the interesting subplot here is, while everyone wants to take official visits, and I think Zachary Gleason was one of those guys that wanted to take official visits, not everyone's going to have that opportunity. Not everyone's going to look at this big picture and say, well, why am I waiting until June if I know where I want to be? And I think I think you're going to see a couple of guys that are on Penn State's board or high on Penn State's board. They're going to come off the board before official visits, even though they've got some set up to some other good schools. So interested to see what happens in the next couple of months. And that's why check out bluewhiteillustrated.com, check out our Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, because I think this is the place to go to follow Penn State recruiting.
There's going to be a lot of activity today and this week if you're watching here in the minutes after we release this video. All kinds of things from spring football as well, and Ryan has been tracking the recruiting visits, which we'll get to later this week on the Thursday recruiting show. So I'm Thomas Ryan Carr, that is Sean Fitz. We'll be back with more information from Blue White Illustrated here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel.